This here is a remarkable,
Welcome to the Wedding of Distinction podcast, a program for the unique bride and groom. The Wedding of Distinction is a concept where brides and grooms want something better. Not just your average wedding. We have the tools to make that happen. Now, here's your host, Mike Fernino.
We meet again. Hello, everybody. It's Mike. Welcome. Welcome to the Wedding of Distinction podcast. And we are going to discuss wedding planning today. And wedding planning has always been challenging for couples. It's not like there's a wedding class that you can take in college, and there is no wedding 101 in high school as an elective. In fact, many times couples will ask advice from their friends and their family and even their parents. But the problem with that is that everyone has their own taste and their own style. So what works for one may not necessarily work for another. Today's modern couple generally is very busy, and both people are working or they're in school. There's never enough time for wedding planning. And to top things off, there are many hidden pitfalls that you don't expect and you will encounter along the way. Having enough time to plan your wedding is crucial. But having someone direct you and keep things organized, well, that could be all the difference between a pleasurable wedding planning experience and a stress-filled wedding planning experience. On my podcast today, we feature a conversation with Kia Martinson, and she is from Engaged, Connecticut. Kia is a professional wedding planner and also the owner of a retreat-style venue out in Marlborough, Connecticut. Kia offers some solid information and advice for today's busy couples and what to consider when planning your wedding. Let's jump right into this interview today on the Wedding of Distinction. On the Zoom line, I have Kia Martinson, and Kia happens to be involved with something called Engaged CT, and I thank her for some time today on the Wedding of Distinction. Kia, how are you? Welcome to my little program here.
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me, Mike. It's nice to finally talk to you.
My pleasure. So we've got a lot to talk about, so let's jump right into it. What's Engaged CT? Tell us about the website and your group that you started.
So I would say I've been in business for over 18 years, but I think Engaged Connecticut began a little bit over a decade ago. I'm a wedding planner by trade, and then we sort of started looking at venues that maybe were being run by mom and pop type of companies or people and trying to make them more friendly for couples, just like barns and estates and things that weren't necessarily, being run by like a cookie cutter type of situation.
Now, what is the name of the venue that you happen to have?
So I am one of the owners of Meadowbrook Estate. It's located in Marlborough, Connecticut. We have lodging for up to about 30 people, maybe give or take. We can always sneak a little baby in somewhere. And then we have a ballroom inside that can do about 100 people comfortably. And then we can do a tented area outside for up to 250. But you're coming for the whole weekend. It's unlike going to like a normal everyday like hotel venue type of situation. You have the whole weekend. You come in on a Friday, you celebrate on a Saturday, and you check out on a Sunday.
So this is very much like a retreat.
Absolutely. And it's a great thing for certain couples. We all have that friend who gets lost or that parent who disappears. Sometimes it's good to have everybody in one place.
Right. And you also are involved with some other venues throughout Connecticut as well, right?
Absolutely. And as a wedding planner, I go everywhere. I just a few weeks ago was at the Glastonbury Boathouse. I've been to the Wadsworth Mansion. I've been, there's plenty to do in Connecticut and plenty of places to get married. And some places really need a wedding planner and some places don't. So it just depends.
Now, talking about wedding venues and places, I've noticed over the years being a professional DJ that today's modern couples seem to be gravitating less and less to the traditional wedding facilities with the grand ceilings and the marble and all that stuff. And so many people are very interested in having a barn or that type of retreat venue that you're speaking about. Could you talk a little bit about that, what you're seeing and as far as the shift over to these more casual type of rustic facilities we have in Connecticut?
I think one of the things that's happened is that I think our couples have changed over time. Weddings are much more about friends, family coming together to hang out, play some yard games. Lots of people are still starting to go back to getting married in their backyard. That it was a after COVID, many people who had their weddings canceled from these very big, huge, large areas changed to these smaller venues that offer them a little bit more control over how they're spending their money. They'll spend the same amount of money if you were going to, say, like a Marriott, but you definitely control your money in a different way. You're going to be able to put it into, maybe the DJ of your choice instead of picking from their absolute list of must-haves. You get to decide, do what your linen colors are. Not that you don't get to do those in those traditional wedding venues, but a lot of couples find that they just have a lot more say in how they're spending their budgets.
I really like the idea of spending more money on the DJ, Kia. That's a good one. Absolutely. So couples are in the beginning process. They just got engaged. When should couples start planning their weddings? Is there a hard number, or what's a good idea as far as how much lead time they should factor in?
So I've been thinking about this mostly because some couples are the people who need to plan everything out. And then there's couples who are much more relaxed, who feel like they'll just do it when they need to do it. One of the things I say is if you're looking at a popular time in Connecticut, which has changed from being May and June to really being September and October, booking your wedding venue is your number one priority, just because some of those prime dates and weekends go pretty quickly. And then you can sort of start to plan the way that you would like to. It doesn't mean that you have to try to do everything at once. I know a lot of couples say, like, my entire summer is just going to one person's wedding after another, and they don't really want to plan anything just in case they kind of want to go and see if there's things that they don't like. So it allows this ability for couples to really decide, what are we going to do? When you're about 6 months out, you should have the major things done, including your venue, including your attire ordered, your DJ, your photographer, and your food. And florist and makeup, all those things should be happening as well. It is something that allows you a little bit more freedom to sort of explore what is out there.
Right. So now a couple is saying, I don't know really how to plan a wedding. I've never gotten married before. And we're dealing with rookies. There's no college 101 classes or any of that. So they're trying to figure out, do I go it alone? Do I get advice from friends? Do I have parents help me? Answer to that is no. What are the benefits of having a professional wedding planner for a couple, especially busy couples that are working all the time?
I think having a wedding planner allows you to focus, to realize what's the next step that I need to do. What's the next way that we're going to spend this amount of money? If we want to try to save money, where can we save money? And maybe come back and visit the more expensive package or something along those lines once we've hit all of the important things that we have to get covered. Also, a wedding planner is going to bring up things that you may not be thinking about. There's so many Airbnb venues, and some of them legally can't have wedding venues. Like, they can't host weddings. And so one of the things that we do is we always tell our couples to check on your wedding venue to make sure that they're up to date with everything that they need to do. That's not even a bad thing to do with some of the newer wedding locations. We just had this happen to a couple in Manchester. Their wedding venue didn't have their CO, which is the certificate of occupation. So there's things like that that we can help with. We also bring up the things like if you're having a food trucks are awesome, but they leave before your wedding is over. So who's going to clean everything up? Is your bar company and your caterer two different companies? And who's responsible for what part of the wedding? There's all of these other things that you may not be thinking about, and you may just be looking at the dollar sign. And what we try to do is make it understandable what that dollar sign brings and what it's going to possibly cause you to spend money somewhere else.
And would you describe the difference between a full-time coordinator that someone brings on from the very beginning and a day of coordinator?
When you're doing something with working with an on-site coordinator, they're there really for the day, that maybe the day or two before, making sure all of your items have arrived. They're putting everything else out. They're keeping you on your time schedule. And then they're also packing everything up for you. When you're having a full-time, or like what I say, also a partial wedding planner, because some couples will start and then all of a sudden realize we shouldn't be doing this alone. So for those couples, it's a little bit more intensive, I guess, in a way, training to say, hey, this is what you need to be doing. This is what you need to be focused on. And also, when you have somebody who's been there from the beginning, they have the ability to help, I don't know, fix anything that might become an issue. Day of, sometimes our hands are tied. We'll do our best what we can work with. And we all have emergency kits and we do what we can. But if there's a big issue, we may not be able to fix it the way that we would if we had been planning throughout, because we probably would have caught the issue right from the beginning.
Right. And speaking of issues, what are some of the big wedding pitfalls or let's say, biggest mistakes that couples can make, and how do they avoid them?
A lot of the biggest mistakes are people don't realize that it is just one day. There's a lot to fit into that day. And a lot of times couples will have so much planned and forget to actually just enjoy themselves. And I'm sure you've seen this where you'll start to play a song, it's the couple's favorite song, but they're nowhere to be found because they got dragged outside to take pictures with the sunset, which they wanted, obviously. But there's things that they will miss. And so I always try to remind couples that, hey, let's be realistic about how much you can do on that day. I always think budget is an issue that people don't realize how much things cost, and cutting down on staff with the caterers. Like I said before, who's going to clean up? You might think you're saving yourself money by doing a whole bunch of DIY projects. We're all guilty of starting a project, and when it's no longer fun, it's a lot more work. Mm-hmm. And it would have just been cheaper in the beginning to allow someone else to do it like a professional. I
got a good one for you. Do-it-yourself wedding favors. Oh. Never a good idea, right?
No. And just, when I've heard people say we don't really need a DJ, we'll just put on a playlist. You do so much more. You're reading the room. When you need to slow things down, if there's announcements that need to be made, not even just the normal standard introductions, but what if somebody's car has to be moved or something else has come up? You do so much more than just play music, and you're paying attention to the room. You're noticing that a lot of the older couples are not getting up on the dance floor. So then you'll throw in a good song that'll get them going. You're also keeping the vibe of the whole wedding going, and people think that they can just make a playlist, but that doesn't always work.
No. Even with technology, there's no Bluetooth speaker that can do what I can do as far as reading the room and everything. Kia is right. Listen to this woman. She's smart. She knows what she's talking about here. How can the listeners of my program get in contact with you for your services or to find out about your venue, or even if they wanted to have a day of coordination to help them out?
Absolutely. You could reach me at engagect.com. It has my email. It has my phone number. It has the best way. And usually always our first consultation is free because I like to learn what our couples are doing. I like to know if my couples have actually sat down with each other and discussed, what type of wedding do they want. Some couples want a big, huge wedding and some people don't. And if they're on the same page, it makes it so much easier to deal with family and friends. If both people who are getting married know we're going to try to stay within this number, we do want someplace that has an outdoor site, but also has an indoor site. When you have these conversations beforehand, and sometimes when you're doing planning and you're not together, you're, as a couple, not going to be lost or confused what both of you are looking for from that big day.
That sounds like wonderful advice, and I appreciate you giving the listeners of the program a little bit of it. She'll give you a lot more, too, if you hire her services. So, Kia Martinson, thank you for a few minutes today on the Wedding of Distinction. I hope you have a great remainder of fall and a wonderful 2025 season. So I hope we'll see you out there sometime soon.
Absolutely, and same to you. Have a great one.
This here is a remarkable,
The Wedding of Distinction podcast is a production of Music in Motion Entertainment. All rights reserved. Any unauthorized publication of this program is strictly prohibited. For the Wedding of Distinction podcast, I'm Mike Vincent. Happy wedding planning, everybody.